Feel free to leave comments. I will not be bringing anybody up, sorry, because they have lots to say, and we're going to try to keep this within a certain amount of time. And I wish us well. So what do you guys want to talk about first? And who wants to introduce themselves? And if you don't want to introduce yourselves, you just go, no. Okay.
Introductions are overrated. Let's just start chatting.
Well, don't you think people want to know who we are? Like, who are these strange faces in the middle of our feed?
Bopping heads on a screen. That's all you need to know.
Well, if you're in my broadcast, you know there's going to be a little strangeness. So, but as you can see, the names come up, folks, so you know where they are. You'll also see their location. The only one that didn't do that is Carmi. Well done, Carmi.
I didn't. I put my location on my profile. I am in the Great White North, not that far from Adib. I could probably ride my bike to Adib's house if I had about 8 hours and clear roads. I am in London, Ontario, Canada.
That would be a good bike ride.
It would be, and we could share some socially distanced tea when I get there on your lawn.
Oh, that would be nice. I look forward to that. Now, I want to know who on here can pronounce the town that I'm in.
What, Mississauga?
Mississauga. Hans, what do you think?
Yes, actually, because I hear it a lot because I've got friends there as well.
It's in reference to the Mississauga, the people that used to live here before we showed up and tore the place apart.
It's a way better name than London because people think I live in the real London, and I'm not. I always have to disappoint them by telling them I'm in the other London, the one in Canada. As opposed to the London, Kentucky, which I've also been to, which is actually a pretty cool little town. Lots of Londons, but
nobody warned me about that. And when people said, "Yeah, I'm going to London for the day," I was like, "God, you're going to be exhausted. There's no way." Until I finally learned that there was London Part 2, the sequel.
They should have called it New London.
So are we? So do we want to say who we are and sort of how we come to be here? So Michael is kind of like the glue that we all work for Infotech Research Group. Michael is the glue that connects all of us. So Michael is the Michael owns this channel, so it's his playground. He sets the rules. But Michael asked us if we'd like to get together and join him this morning, and we thought, hey. We the three of Adib, Hans, and I have we've met at Infotech Live events. We work together on they're analysts. I'm not, but we work together on stuff that Infotech puts out the door. We try to explain technology to folks and help them take advantage of it, get more out of it, use technology for good. So when Michael said, "Hey, do you guys want to join me on a Sunday morning chat?" we all jumped at the chance. You guys want to introduce yourselves?
Sure. I'm Adib Gabriel, and I am no longer an analyst, technically.
Well, technically we're all sort of an analyst, aren't we?
Well, we're all sort of analysts. So we all started as analysts, but let's not dwell on that too much.
Good point. We're not about titles.
I met Michael on my first day. I stepped into the Toronto office, and I had just finished my first interview, and I was raving about the place. I don't know if Michael, your audience, have they heard you speak about the temple at all?
They have, and I think they think I make it up, because when I tell them that I drive a 100-year-old elevator, they're like, okay, sure.
Yeah, it's just like the movies too, with the little control that goes back and forth and the closing gates. It's one of the most beautiful buildings I've been in, and one of the most horrible heating and air conditioning systems in any building that we're forced to be in.
I love it. The mornings are, what was it? Which one is it? I think one part of the day is very, very hot, and one part of the day is very, very cold. And you just have to go with it. It's all goodness.
You know what? We would take the warm or the cold right now in a heartbeat, just to be back in the building together, right? to have the connectedness.
Yeah,
so
it is by far one of the best buildings I've ever worked in. It has character, it has history. I work in London, and then every week or two I come in for the day. I take the train from London. London's about a 2-hour drive or train ride away from Toronto. So I'll take the train in, take the subway up to the office, and join my colleagues there. And it is honestly, it's a resonant, inspiring piece of architecture, and you sort of have to stop before you walk in and catch your breath and realize just how lucky you are. It is an amazing place to work. And we're really lucky to be there. And, Michael is the face of the building. Michael is the first person that people see when they come in. He sets the tone. If you want to know anything about this remarkable place, he's the guy that you go to. Even before I had even come to the building for the first time, I was told about this guy who knows everything, and that was Michael. And I was told you cannot go in without spending time with him. He gave me my first tour, and from that moment on, I was pretty much hooked.
Same with me. So I was raving about the building to the front desk, and then the person behind the desk said, "Hey, why don't you have a chat with Michael?" And I'm like, "Sure, why not?" I have no idea what she was talking about, and then Michael shows up, says, "Hi, I'm Michael." And I said, "Hi, I'm Adib." And so he showed me around. I had no idea what was going on, but I had a feeling that something special was happening here. And he gave me some. He shared with me some prophetic predictions, which ultimately came true. So that was kind of cool.
Okay. We should stay on topic here.
This
is not anything like I thought it would be, but they never are. Okay, so are you guys first off okay with talking about COVID fatigue? Can we talk about that?
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Because I think we're all kind of sick of where we are right now, aren't we? Every day kind of looks the same. I feel like Bill Murray in Groundhog Day.
I've actually, I do empathize with the people who have really been struggling with the addition or the changes. I've been working almost 100% remote except for travel, for the last 4 years. So I'm missing out on the travel. I'm missing out. I'm based out of Atlanta. So coming up to Toronto and other conferences I speak at, I miss those friends. But oddly enough, it hasn't been as much of a change except for the fact I can't go out to eat at lunch and I can't have my unlimited soda refills. And that's been the greatest hardship for me, is not being able to sit there with my notepad working through stuff and just refilling 22 times so that everyone in Canada can make fun of my soda addiction.
What's your favorite soda?
Diet Dr. Pepper. Although I drink the Walmart Diet Dr. Thunder version of it because it's only 57 cents for 2 liters. I'm cheap.
I relate. As a child, I always, whenever we traveled, I would have Dr. Pepper because I love the taste. But I grew up in Montreal, Quebec, so part of Canada. And an interesting sort of note there was we weren't allowed. You could not sell legally Dr. Pepper in Quebec. So it was not available there. The term was somewhat derogatory to the French Canadian majority there. So we only got it when we came to Ontario or took visited family in the U.S. And so
weird.
Yeah. And now, of course, as an adult, I can have it whenever I want. So Hans, I'm right there with you. I think our next virtual happy hour will be centered around Dr. Pepper. I think it must.
Sounds good. And my backup drink for you friends is my Canada Dry Diet Again.
Nice job.
Do you think you have enough there, sir?
That will get me through this broadcast.
Yes.
Then I'll go upstairs and get another bottle. So what about Adib and Carmi? What about you two? Because I know you all spend a lot of time in the office. And how is the adjustment for you all?
Oh, yeah, I'll jump in here, Carmi. Before Infotech, I was an independent for a while, and I had this office. In fact, I was working from home with firms since 2008, maybe more than that, 2006 actually. And so I've had this office for many years, and when I joined Infotech, I was commuting to work for the first time in many years. And then when the pandemic hit, it was like I came back. It was like nothing has changed. I can't seem to be able to get out of this office. No, the main difference, of course, and that's exactly what Hans is talking about, is it's more than just working from home. It's much worse than working from home. It's being stuck at the home.
Right. It's okay if you choose not to go out, but suddenly when that choice is taken away, it feels more constraining. And I think a lot of people I've seen, whether it's our members, clients, other people I've talked to, one of the hardest parts for them was they had to learn to communicate and work collaboratively through video chat. So a lot of times, I was suffering from the fact that everyone in the room was talking at the same time. I couldn't see what they were showing on the whiteboard. So it was always a struggle. And now everyone has figured out how to work collaboratively. And a lot of teams are actually finding it's far more productive. Not only are they getting the time back from their commute, but they're actually focusing more on the work and getting things done. The counter to that is dealing with kids, being stuck at home, not being able to escape your work if you don't have a dedicated workspace has really worn people out.
I think, I think you're absolutely right. I think it's sort of caused us to look through work, look through home life, look at the balance of the two through a very different lens. And certainly it's challenging when you can only interact with your colleagues and your stakeholders through a video chat window. In our case, Microsoft Teams, but it could be Zoom, it could be Google Meet, whatever the tool is. But I think we're learning about the ins and outs, the advantages and disadvantages of remote work in a way that we probably had never appreciated before we went into lockdown the first time. And the research that's being done on best practice in these virtual spaces and how to maintain connectivity with those most important to you when you cannot be in front of them in the same room, I think is going to allow us to work better in future. So when this pandemic is all over, we're going to look back at this as one of the best learning opportunities that we've ever had, in much the same way that I'm sure, during the Second World War was an opportunity. Obviously, it was a huge tragedy for the world, but it was also an opportunity to learn best practices for dealing with adversity. How do you keep the lights on when the world around you seems to be falling apart? I'm a glass half full, rose-colored glasses, look for the light at the end of the tunnel kind of guy, and so we can't change the fact that there's a pandemic going on, but we certainly can change the fact that, especially in our case as technologists, that we can look for those opportunities to do better. And so I'm encouraged. Not a day goes by that I don't, commute down the basement stairs to my home office and, pop my laptop open and have my first meeting of the day. And I wonder at the sophistication of a tool like Microsoft Teams, the ability to connect people in geographically disparate locations, the fact that the four of us are now connected across the continents of North America with people commenting in and watching from all around the world. This is miraculous stuff. And now that we don't really have much choice, this is the way we communicate, at least for now.
Can I do a plug? Can I just do a quick plug? And there is going to be a slight delay. Okay. So this is HAPS, for those who don't know the platform we're on. It's fairly new. It's in beta. They're having growing pains, as every company does in beta. There are a few features here that I was hoping we'd be able to use, but they're not currently in this new format of what they're doing. So that's okay. The other thing I want to address is, since I've been here, I've had no problems with trolls, and it is crystal clear, and there's so many people who watch the rebroadcast. So if we have this and the end numbers are 100 or 200, which is still pretty good for a business show, it could be as many as 1,000, 2,000 in 3 weeks, because people are going around now looking to find their tribe, their people. And I know they've got good people in here. So please, if you can, follow all these guys. They're wonderful. I totally endorse everybody that's in this room. And I'll tell you, you will definitely find your IQ go up a few notches if you get to talk to them. Okay. Lead on.
I worked with several firms that had this idea of work from home as part of their approach to growing their business. And so for me, it's I've been one of the few guys that used to. I was one of those guys that said, would ask me, where do you work? And I would say such and such, and I work from home. And at the time, it was a bit of okay. It was kind of like a weird. You don't actually work if you work from home. There was always that sort of, if I dare say so, the stigma of it. But that stigma has evaporated. Now it's the cool thing. It's the expected thing. So a lot of folks are reacting to something that a guy like me has already gone through. There was in some of the previous engagements I've had, the teams were being managed and they were across the globe. So to Carmi's point, they were teams that touched maybe 2 or 3 continents were on teleconference calls, and managers would manage a team that had folks that they hadn't met yet, physically met. And yet the teams were high-performing teams. So for me, it's not a big surprise. I'm glad that we're here. I'm glad we're doing that. But I also don't want us to pick up any bad habits. I don't want us to forget what it's like to be out and to meet in an office space and to interact in this way.
Well, we lose the water cooler talk. We lose the informal communication. So we have to be more deliberate. One of the first things our team set up was 2 chat groups. One was for support, where you needed something work-related and important, and then the other was just for fun. So we tried to create a channel and create a way where we could have those jokes, share stuff, share good and bad things that were happening, but not interfere with the job we were trying to do. So we've got to be a lot more deliberate in finding that social time. With some of the conference friends, we've actually set up and we do a bi-weekly game night, and we hop on and play games for a couple hours online, and it's a chance to catch up. So we're having to force that interaction that before it just happened naturally.
Why do you think the governments jumped on this idea so quickly? This idea of being sequestered. Was it a best practice that other countries who have gone through this sort of this sort of effect? What do you guys think?
I could talk a little bit about that, because that's a channel and an area that I've been following quite a lot. Really, when you look at something that's highly infectious, the highest priority, once you figure out what it is or have an idea what it is to quarantine those that are infected. If you can quarantine and stop the spread, then it buys you time to figure out how to treat, how to save the population. Look back a couple years to Ebola. We had 2 near global pandemics with Ebola, but they were able to trace the people who've traveled out of those areas and isolate them so that it didn't spread, or that could have been just catastrophic. The big challenge we had here was there wasn't consistent information. If we had been able to shut down, lock down, and use both contact tracing and testing to identify people that were infected, we probably could have kept this isolated. It would have been in the news, but it wouldn't have spread. But it spread from people who were asymptomatic, not showing any symptoms. They didn't know they were carrying the virus. It spread to so many places that it's out of control. So do you shut everyone down 100% for 2 to 4 weeks and then it burns out because it will only infect the people that you're sheltering with? Or do you do what we did, which is kind of stay open, which means it's going to continue to spread, and all we can do is try and limit it so that healthcare can keep up with the infections, at least until we get enough people infected that the spread goes below, declines rather than is increasing.
Understood. So by that rationale, the first sort of seclusion effort had some positive effect, and that positive effect varied across the world. Let's just keep it that way. I'm not going to go as far as any more detail than that. But then what about the second wave? And if that's the case, are these waves going to continue? So will there be a third wave that's the bump is a little lower? Will there be a 4th wave, and then the bump will be even lower than that? What do you guys think?
Well, I think. I think we are probably going to see additional waves, and I think right now, what's different between the first wave and what we're seeing now is that now we have vaccines not only on the horizon but actually in the initial stages of being distributed. So, we now have tools that over time will have the potential to stunt the spread. And ultimately get us to reach a level of immunity among society that will then render this entire issue moot. But we're not quite there yet. I think, all you need to do is go grocery shopping to realize that a year into this event, just how many people simply don't give it the attention that it deserves. I went grocery shopping yesterday because we needed some things, and I'm standing there and people are literally hovering right over my shoulder, and I stopped counting how many times I had to tell people to literally go away from me. We are in the middle of a pandemic. Please don't stand next to me. Distance yourself. And so I think behavior has a huge sort of determinant of where this will go. And unfortunately, I think there's a significant percentage of people out in the population who still haven't gotten the message, don't understand, what community spread is or means, or what their role in preventing it ultimately is. And unfortunately, because of human behaviors, we are where we are, and it's not going to get better until vaccination essentially stamps this out on our behalf.
Michael, were you trying to say something? Sorry.
I just that we have to be aware of our audience here. And that, you guys have some superior brain power here. Some of these terms may be flying over some heads, which is fine. This is great if we're on LinkedIn, but on Haps, it's a little lighter. I noticed we went from gear 3 to gear 7 without shifting. We just went. And we now know that I just want to put a light point in. Okay, just a very light point. What I've noticed is we have those who don't care anymore, don't wear a mask. You'll have a group of them and look at you like you're going to do something about it. And they're talking. Police are passing by. And I'm like, how did it get here? And I think it's fatigue. I think we're going through a form of fatigue. And some people are like, they don't believe it at all. Think it's some huge conspiracy. Or you have those who are absolutely like my mom, terrified to even open the door with a series of masks. And, she has her reasons. But if we could address that, why is there such a wide, different viewpoint on the exact same thing? And yet we all know that people are dying from it. That's not a mystery.
Thanks, Helen.
Yeah.
Hi, Tuan.
You guys rock. You guys are amazing viewers. Thank you. You're making my day. This is delightful. I think the human condition being what it is, there's always going to be a wide spectrum of response and perspective on anything. And I think that's what makes humans humans. I think it's what makes us special, right? The fact that we aren't all the same. And fortunately or unfortunately, in the case of a pandemic, that is going to mean, certain behaviors that will help and certain behaviors that may not help. But that's just humanity, right? You're 7.5 billion people on this planet. That's 7.5 billion different opinions on what is or is not reality, and that is normal, never going to change. And I don't really think we should fight it. That's just the way we are, the way we're built.
A big portion of it is also, I think, how scientists communicated at the beginning was confusing to people as well. And so it seemed like we were getting mixed messages and mixed advice. Coronaviruses are pretty interesting, and SARS is a good example. SARS, when it broke out in Hong Kong and China before, it passed through most of the protective equipment, and a lot of healthcare workers got sick. So at the beginning of this, they thought they had another SARS on their hands, which meant hospitals needed the protective equipment, but it wasn't really going to help the rest of us. They quickly realized that this virus really likes playing in the swimming pool. It likes getting tied to moisture and water droplets, and actually masks, even a couple layers of fabric, good fabric, could actually trap it and save us. And when they discovered that, they're like, all right, we were telling you not to wear masks. Now we think masks will really help. And if nothing else, if you cough or sneeze, you're not going to get other people sick. And that really helped, but it took a while for people to realize that it was new advice based on more information, not, hey, we have no idea what's going on. And if you think about it, we all suffer from the flu every year. There are really nasty versions of the flu. There's many versions of coronavirus going around. They are always going to be around. Avian flu, MERS is still pops up every year, swine flu, all of these things. Most likely, we're going to probably be like a lot of Asia is moving forward, where you're going to wear some level of a mask going out. You're going to try and be more careful washing your hands and not poking yourself in the eye. And that will stop flu and all of these viruses. And the people who don't follow the advice are going to get sick and sick more frequently. But yeah, I agree with Carby. We'll survive, but our world is populated, and now with travel, anything can spread anywhere. We've known these things are coming for a long time. We didn't know when, so we need to start changing our behavior. Same thing we did with water and food. As we increased farming, we had to, do a little bit more safety precautions with the food we ate. This is no different.
So I just want to, interject here for a sec, because I had a fear at the beginning of this that we could chat for 5 hours and all of us would be like, no, we're going to do 30 minutes, man. We got 30 minutes in the bag. And I feel like we're on the first tier of our staircase here. So I just thought I'd warn you, we're at 26 minutes. I would love, we haven't talked about anything we talked about in the green room, but that's fine.
Sorry.
That's okay, but this is
the first launch of Sunday morning chat.
No, but this happens on Haps. I don't know if you've noticed, but the people in the room, and you're only seeing a fifth of what's really going on, okay? We have 97 viewers so far. We have all kinds of interaction here. People are going to be watching this later. It'll probably be in the thousands of views in a couple weeks. And it's because it's very on point. But we have not discussed one thing. And I don't know if you guys don't want to talk about it now. It's about a man that...
Fire away.
Well, some people call him Donald.
Oh.
I love
him.
We're going to bring out the Donald?
I've loved his cartoons from the beginning. I
Yes.
do think even if he is a duck, he should have worn pants.
Yeah, I always had issues with, showing that to my children, a duck without pants. Yeah.
Yes.
We're wearing a tie and not pants. Come on. This
doesn't make sense.
So Donald was the original remote worker and prepared for COVID. This was up top, party downstairs.
Now, I could have been talking about Ronald McDonald. Do you know what I mean? We could have been.
Yeah, we assume. Yeah,
but I assume we all know what we're talking about. So, does anybody want to jump in the pool, or are we going to just?
Suddenly, I feel like a Big Mac.
Yeah.
Yeah. Woo! Let's jump in the pool.
How many more days?
Oh, that's right.
3 more days, regardless of
3 more days. Do we need to give more publicity to an individual who doesn't need it, who's looking for it?
No, and I certainly don't want to, and it's why I've always backed away from that. As a journalist, as an analyst, it's never really been my thing to get political. However, I went into this career path. I pursued this career path, because I wanted to tell stories. I wanted to uncover truth. I wanted to improve the world around me, and so to kind of look back at the last 4 or 5 years, which have literally been driven by mistruths, untruths, is jarring for me. And I don't say this, and again, I don't. As a journalist, it's never mattered what my political background, is or was. I'm Canadian. I care about my community. I want all of us to succeed. I want to do things. I want to devote my life to making sure that I leave the world in a better position than it was when I got here. That's my goal. If that's political, then so be it. And to use the lie, the size of the inauguration day crowd, the meetings that he had with people where sir, they were crying, big men, burly, crying. Give me a break. That one lie after another. It's fatiguing after 4 or 5 years. And
you talk about fatigue.
Of anything, I'm looking forward to that being done.
Yeah.
Sorry, Carmen, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No worries.
Yes.
But we're seeing this across politics as well. I've become very frustrated with a lot of our political leaders who are in it to maintain their own power and control, and routinely provide false justification for the laws and actions they're trying to take. And here we had somebody that just did it on a far more magnificent Twitter-based scale, and took everything to a further extreme. But we're not holding all of our politicians accountable. When we see interviews and they're trying to push legislation and just using outright incorrect or deliberately incorrect information, but we're not holding these people accountable. So is it reasonable to think that someone would do the extreme version or become a super troll in that area? I think we got what we asked for. Like, this is the end result of what America wanted.
Hans, are we suggesting that it was disinformation that rallied the troops, or because to my mind, my feeling is on this is this individual has that vantage point because he managed to rally a feeling, to get this. There is a feeling in the U.S. that is there, and he represents that feeling. So we're always going after the individual, but the fact is that individual is representing some feeling that lingers in the U.S.
I'm not going to deny that, and everyone calls this guy dumb, but the truth of the matter is his ability to tap into that sense, that undertone, that had been living in the shadows for God knows how long. Was brilliant. I mean, this takes, and I will say this as, I don't know if you can tell from my name, I'm a Jew. And so I grew up learning the lessons of the Holocaust. And frankly, you don't have to be Jewish. We should all learn the lessons of the Holocaust, because if you look at the Donald Trump playbook for communications, messaging, and propaganda, it is literally lifted from 1930s Nazism. And, we were always raised with two words in our mind: never again. And so that we were supposed to, if you recognize that behavior, you were supposed to flag it, you were supposed to challenge it, you were supposed to ensure that it didn't happen again. And the fact that we've been standing idly by and watching this guy essentially be 1930s Nazism and using that playbook, using terrifyingly new, efficient tools of technology to accomplish pretty much the same thing, is a sign that we have not learned lessons of history, and we clearly don't understand the concept of never again. And the fact that you had white supremacists waving Confederate and Nazi flags walking through the Capitol in Washington, I think, is an illustration. That Nazi
flag was a wild.
Yeah, is an illustration that we clearly haven't learned a darn thing. And that to me is the tragedy of where we are, not just in America, but as as a world. And the fact that we continue to elect these people, I think, is pathetic.
So, Carmi, we were going to put our toe in the pond, not swim with the sharks. Okay, there we
go. There's two. Tying into what you guys said, is there? I think there's two very different aspects, and they're getting muddled together. Yes, there is a portion of the country who sees politics and society moving too far to the left for their comfort, and they see this as a fight to survive for their ideals. We see the same thing going on in Hong Kong, as well as their civil liberties are being cracked down on. And then the separate is Trump, whether you love him or hate him, he's done some amazing and great things that we needed to do, and they're lost in the noise. He's stroked his own narcissism. And so I don't think he ever imagined that people would riot and try and break into the Capitol or do that.
Yeah. I believe that.
He cares. I don't think he cares because he wants everyone to love him. So he was trying to stroke his ego. And by the way, maybe you're trying to get the campfire burning a little hotter, and then you dump gasoline and it blows up your car. You're still being irresponsible. You're still responsible to some extent for blowing up the car if you spilled gasoline between your car and the campfire. But I think we've also done a disservice when you don't feed the trolls. If you've got someone who's that narcissistic, the more you argue, the more you feed it, the more they're getting validation for bad behavior. And I think that's that's a lesson we need to take away. And this is the same with children. If you have children that are misbehaving, you don't reward them or constantly acknowledge the bad behavior because it's the attention they want. How do you starve somebody who's behaving badly? You take the attention away and they'll shrivel up and hopefully go away.
See, the big concern for a lot of people is that he'll come back 4 years from now.
Well, he won't come back. Maybe a member of his family will come back, but I don't think he'll come back.
When W left office, it pretty much ruined his family's chance at holding office again. I can't see him wanting to come back or coming back. I honestly don't think he wanted to be president until people told him he couldn't, and then his ego wouldn't let it go. The main thing I'm looking forward to is to see what Melania's new contract was and what her payout was for staying with him.
Here we go again.
My
toe in the pond. Toe in the pond. Yeah. Okay.
I want to go back to this.
I don't see him coming back. I don't see him being able to mobilize the base. But we have to look out for the next one, whether they're on the left or the right. We need to beware because they could come from either side, and we could be in the same situation.
We're getting all kinds of comments now. So is there any of these you guys want to read?
Well, I'm looking at them.
They're fast and furious now.
Yeah. Just one toe.
Now, it was very light at the beginning. Did you notice that? Like almost like a pastry. It was light and fluffy and joyous.
Yeah.
And then we got into another gear, and then we went into hypersonic.
Flipping it around.
Yeah, go ahead.
Flipping it around, a lot of it, and we get sucked into the media and we get caught in the echo chamber of only seeing bad news. Like let's even look back and say there were a lot of great things that happened in 2020. Look at how many people came together to help each other. How many places quickly switched their entire production line to develop PPE or ethanol-based hand sanitizer or whatever people needed. Restaurants and grocery stores donating millions of dollars to food banks to help people through. And we lose that generally humanity is really good. We really do come together and we really do help each other out. And I think we lose sight of that when we focus too much attention on the bad aspects of what's going on. So for you all, what's something really cool and great and inspirational that you thought came out of 2020?
Can we discuss? Can we go one thing that was from the green room? Just one?
Yes.
To end it up with how people are adopting dogs. How everybody's buying a dog now.
Well, if you live in Quebec, where they just instituted an 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. curfew, with an exception for people who work, or for obviously frontline healthcare workers, or for anyone who has a dog who needs to walk the dog within 1 kilometer, you actually have people who are renting or selling their dogs now, because that's how you can get out overnight. And again, we're dog owners. Lots of infotechers are dog owners, and I have seen so often, and I've felt it myself, that when the world gets tough and you're dealing with waves of adversity, a dog helps get you through that. A dog helps you. My dog doesn't care who's in office. My dog just wants treats. My dog just wants to love everyone around her. And it might seem trivial. It might seem inconsequential in the overall scheme of things. But I think what's happened over the last year has reminded us to hold on tightly to those small, important things that seem trivial, but really aren't. Those tiny little moments. The blessing here is that I get to spend more time with my family that I wouldn't have been able to otherwise. That I get to hang out with my dog far more often than I could have if I were spending 8, 10, 12 hours a day at an office. And so, animals are awesome. And if you weren't a dog person before, I sure hope you are one now, or a cat person or a chinchilla person, whatever it is. But it's a reminder that we have to find those little joys wherever we can. And I think over the last year, we've all done a really good job of sort of pivoting a little bit, shifting gears, and we're getting better at that. And I find that super encouraging, and it's inspiring.
Yep. I don't have a sort of a success story or a heartwarming story that's at the social community level per se, except to sort of echo what Carmi is saying, whereby Watson, my golden retriever, is loving this pandemic because everybody's at home, and my girls get to walk him, and they're walking out with him more. That's something that they never would have done, so that's great. But and again, very much echoing Carmi's statements, is spending time with the fam, and having the six of us gather in the family room, and having a hot drink and just chatting about the day. That's a very sweet outcome of all this.
Yeah, we have 5 rescue dogs, so we didn't add any, but I follow a number of the rescue groups, shelters around the area, and one of the happiest things I kept seeing was them posting an empty cage saying everyone's been adopted. And for the first time, a lot of these pets that might struggle were finding homes. And actually, in our area, we have an amazing program. Our county has a jail dogs program where inmates train dogs, and then they're adopted out. And what they found is the inmates who participate in the program have an extremely low chance of being arrested in the future. They've taken responsibility. They've put themselves second. They've seen how that they really do matter, and it's been great. It helps them rehabilitate a lot better, and it's creating pets that, for first-time owners, they don't know how to housebreak a dog or how to train them, and this way, the dog is already trained, and now we only have to train the owners how to be responsible. So that's another great outcome of this, I think, as well.
Animals for the win. Gotta love it.
The price of dogs has gone right through the roof too.
And beware of scams. There are some online scams, so be careful. Make sure or adopt in person while wearing a mask.
So I think there's always, in the margins, there's always going to be someone who's trying to scam everyone. But Helen in comments said something that I think is very prescient and very real. She said, we're used to seeing the negative. We forget that people are generally inherently good. And as a journalist, it's always saddened me that the negative gets the headline, right? 1,000 people drive to work and have an easy drive. They don't get the headline. The one person who drives drunk wraps himself around a pole. That becomes the news. We sort of forget all the other good stories that happen in the shadows. And I think, we need to pay particular attention, especially because we have access to tools like apps, like Facebook, like Twitter, like Instagram, that it's up to us to tell the stories. You see a story about, sitting around with your family and the dog and having a drink and having a chat, which is just a lovely kind of image that, we should be sharing that. So, find some way to capture that and share it, because maybe that'll inspire someone else to do the same thing. It's our role.
I got a little grief from my wife a little while back because I was giving the dog so many treats during the day, and she's like, come on, they don't need all of these things. I was like, look at how cheap a treat is, how simple it is, but look at how happy it makes them. Like, it's so easy to make them so happy with something so small. Why wouldn't I do that from time to time, as long as it's still a treat and not expected? And I think that goes back to life in general. With our families, with our coworkers, with our friends, there's lots of little things we can do to help improve their day, help them feel appreciated. Just these little treats we could pop out that don't cost us much, but really help spread that joy and help lift people out of the fatigue and the depression that they may be suffering from, because we're just so focused on solving the problems. Let's see if we can insert a little bit joy. I think, that's one of the driving reasons why Michael set up the channel and spent so much time and effort trying to reach out to people, is to spread his natural warmth and joy and make the world a little bit better place. And I think we could learn a lot from that as well.
I'm not paying him at all. That's the truth.
Not at all.
No, there's no payment here. Not even a doggy treat. Not even a doggy treat. Nothing. I guarantee it. So listen, guys, let's, if you're comfortable with it, we're embarking on that 45-minute thing we talked about earlier. And I feel like we only talked about one thing we talked about in the green room. But if we can address some of the comments here that you're comfortable addressing, that would make me happy. If you don't want to, we can say, we wish you well, whatever is good. I always end my shows with what you're grateful for. So if each of you, who wants to start first? Do you want me to start first because it's kind of mushy?
Go ahead.
I'm the mush master. Okay. I'm currently grateful for this opportunity that we had today. to be together collectively. And the relationships I've developed with each of these people in mostly the pandemic, we would have never had that kind of interaction with 1 minute on the elevator going, have a nice day. Good luck. I wish you well. So now we have developed, I would think, some of us lifelong bonds here because of the pandemic. The other thing I'm grateful for is all the people who look outside the box and know their worth and don't let other people dictate what their worth is. Don't ever limit yourself. There is no glass ceiling. Reach the highest high and you can accomplish anything. And I love everyone who's in the room here, including the people who've been giving these somewhat wild comments, some of them, and some moderate. Very much like the broadcast. Okay, who's next after me?
I'll go next as we're going anti-clockwise. Grateful for the ability to be able to do this during a tough time. Some folks have had a very different experience in this pandemic, and they're hurting, they're struggling. And we're all kind of sitting pretty here in our webcasts talking about it. And I want to think about those folks who are having a tougher time. And so that's it. Next.
That was beautiful.
Yeah, love it.
That was warm and fuzzy. Good.
Exactly. That was a deep to the core, which is why we love you. I am grateful that we all live in an era where we have access to these tools of communication and connection. I can't imagine going through a global event without tools like this, where we can literally create community across the globe from home. And I'm thankful that we have the opportunity to do that. Deeb, you raised something really profound, is that we're privileged. And so, not a moment goes by that I don't reflect on the privilege that I have. And our accountability is to make sure that we never forget that we look out for those who don't, that we show kindness to everyone who crosses our path, because now more than ever they need that. And we have those tools that allow us to do that. And so whether we're connected on apps, or whether we're on social media, or whether we're just, ordering out from a local restaurant, or, crossing someone's path on the street, and trying to maintain social distance so we can still be human. And I've seen so many more examples of that in the last year, because I think it's so much more precious to us now than it's ever been before. And I think that's something that I think we end up becoming better people the more aware of this that we are. And I'm just glad to be part of it.
Along a similar line, I think I'm always thankful each day for the stability, the fact that I don't have to worry as much about some of the base necessities. Do I have the money to pay bills? Where's my next meal going to come from? I'm happy that our choices have led to a place where, instead of looking at that, we can look at, all right, what are we going to do with our time? And a mentor of mine basically calculated out and said, look at, when you subtract sleeping, when you subtract working, eating, those things you have to do, you really only have a few hours each day that you can do something that you really want to do. What are you going to do with that time? Are you going to take it to make yourself better? Are you going to help someone else? Are you going to use it to improve something? And I think that's the big challenge. When you've got that time, we do need to take downtime and recover, but can you make the world a little bit better? Can you do something to improve yourself or those around you? And really take the time to do that. Make the commitment and say, I'm going to accomplish one thing each day that's going to make me or someone else a little better off, and stick to it as often as you can. So for me, I'm thankful that I have the opportunity to focus outward and have the chance to do it.
That was good. That was a wonderful cake, guys, with some spiritual icing at the end. I loved it. That was wonderful. So what do you want to answer some of the questions, or we just cut it off here? Because we're embarking at 50 minutes and we weren't going past 30, right?
Let's give it a go. A couple of minutes. Yep. Why not?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So which ones are you? I would always love to address So Awesome, because we definitely feel that in here, the awesomeness of these three individuals for sure. You know what I do like here, guys? Grateful for this safe space where men can share their voice. Yeah.
Absolutely.
even that last 2 minutes there, if we cut that up and repackage that, we could have people crying all over the world, especially the part with Adib's part. I thought I was starting to tear up a bit. How about you guys? I was grabbing the Adib. Did I go too far?
No, you don't. You didn't. Grown men crying. That's our specialty.
That's right. Not the first time that Adib has almost brought me to tears too. So just so you know, camera or no camera, the guy knows what he's doing.
Helen Wallace brought up a great point that, we're used to seeing the negative. We forget that people are inherently good. And there's a twist on that is advice I give, especially in the workplace, which is assume goodwill. A lot of times we go into a meeting or to a decision and we think, it's going to go against us. But if we assume that our coworkers, everyone is generally trying to make things better, then we can explore the differences and find the solution, not think that, they're trying to approach it from a negative place. So I think about that. We are generally good. We generally want good things. I don't know anyone who works for a company and doesn't want the company to be better. So why don't we go into some of these team meetings and assume everyone wants a good outcome and then work to figure out what that is instead of succumbing to some of the infighting.
Beautiful. Okay. Do you want to end it there, folks? Or we all?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that feels right. Okay. Any last word, Adib? You look like you've got one more nugget in you. You're good?
I'm good. See you next Sunday.
Oh, okay. Well,
how about that?
I hope that happens. And if we have anybody who's interested in being a guest in the future, please contact me, and I will do my very best to consider you as a guest. And thank you, everybody in the room. I thought this went fabulously well. Not exactly like I thought, but this is HAPS. And please, if you can, subscribe, follow, and if you can, send these guys a coffee because you can here. Take care. God bless you all.
Take care.